A video game programmer is tired of working every day correcting errors and bugs. After many days of being awake, he decides to sleep. When he wakes up, he realizes he is in a medieval world. More specifically, this place is the game he programmed. This is Suzuki's story. Today he was called by the company to work, even though today was Sunday. He is no complainer and starts programming. All the people in the company are working without time, because the game they had released had many bugs and they had to be quickly fixed. He always called himself Satou to test the games. He was already correcting the game for more than 3 days and that seemed impossible to finish. He wonders if at this rate he will be able to get a girlfriend. The problems kept coming and he kept correcting errors together with his team. He doesn't know how many days he was awake. After correcting many mistakes, he managed to fix the most obvious ones. There were only minor things left. So he decides to take a nap. The protagonist wakes up suddenly. He was in a completely strange place. He uses his cell phone to make a call, but it doesn't work. Then he realized that this world was part of the video game he was developing. He thinks this was a dream, although it all seemed very real. He realizes that he has become a level 1 player and can see that some bugs still remain. In the distance, he can observe that some very powerful lizard men are coming for him and start attacking him. He feels pain when he receives an arrow. Apparently those lizard soldiers had become more powerful than normal because of a bug in the video game. He is afraid of dying, so he activates any ability. One of them was to throw meteorites and he destroys the whole valley and also these lizards. But not all the lizards were eliminated, there was still one left. That last lizard gives him a sword to make it a fair battle and the final battle begins. The protagonist had gained experience thanks to defeating the lizards and easily defeated the last remaining lizard. After that conflict, he did not want to be in this place. He tried to disconnect from the game, but he could not. He checks his stats and realizes that all his skills have been maxed out and he has many powers. The protagonist decides to try again the ability he used to save him. Once again, he summons those meteors and causes trouble again. That ability was very dangerous, so he decides to be cautious. He checks his inventory. He had a lot of objects and money. Thanks to his new skills, he managed to reach a city. Some soldiers of this city were fighting against a dragon. The dragon got angry and sent a girl flying. The protagonist had no choice but to save her. Arriving to the mainland, she thanks him. She introduces herself as Xena. Other guards had also arrived on the scene. They do not trust Satou because they think he is a spy. The protagonist uses the game's ability to use persuasion and gets out of danger. After a talk with those warriors, he asks them if they can take him to the city. The warriors accept. The protagonist asks, "How is this city?" One of the warriors says that it is composed of different races and that there are also slaves. Arrived in the city, Xena leaves, promising that they will see each other again. Meanwhile, Satou goes to register in the city. He put his hands on a magic table. Just by pronouncing his name, all his data appeared. As he is a foreigner, he could not stay more than 10 days. The reception manager tells him to be careful. If he spends more than 10 days here and has no money, he could become a slave. After these details, a good-looking woman recommended him an inn where he could stay. As our protagonist had nothing else to do, he accepted. The innkeeper explains all the prices and the cost of food. Satou has no problem with money and says he will stay 10 days. This whole situation was confusing, but in the end, that made him happy. As he strolls through the city market, he can tell that there are also half-beast people. One of those girls is being scolded by a man. That person considered beast girls to be of inferior rank. The protagonist, as a good macho man, defends them. He asks her to leave. The little girls thank him for saving them and leave. He realizes that those girls were slaves. The protagonist did not want to attract people's attention, but he knows that at some point he will have to use his magical abilities. He buys some masks and a wig, that way no one will know who he is. Arriving at the inn, he starts to think a little. At first he thought this was a dream and let himself be guided, but now that 2 days passed, everything seemed very real. Besides, this place was not completely similar to the one he developed. There were some changes. Although he would like to go back to his previous life, this place wasn't bad either. Now that he was here, he tried to enjoy this new world, getting very happy about it. A maid wakes him up and tells him that his girlfriend had come to visit him. He remembers that he didn't have a girlfriend and goes out to see who it was. Well, it was the girl he rescued the other day. She as a thank you for being saved wants to give him a ride around town. Satou had nothing to do and accepted the offer. The two have a very nice date. Zenith seems to be falling in love little by little with the main character. She explains to him the workings and history of this city. While they were on their walk through the city, a group of people were throwing stones at some poor beastly girls. There was a priest who was agitating people to kill these women. Supposedly with these stones they would be purifying these girls. Xena defends the girls, while Satou uses his skills and realizes that there are many infiltrators in the crowd who are agitating people. The protagonist finishes them off one by one. In the end he finds the culprit. Satou turns him in. He explains that those beast girls are innocent and it was all planned by this man and the priest to make money. Suddenly the man guilty of this misfortune begins to twist and transform into a demon. The protagonist was so kind-hearted that he wanted to save those girls, but they say they can't move, because it's an order. If they don't listen to what they say, the necklace will tighten until it kills them. Before Satou could do anything, the demon locked everyone in an alternate world. The protagonist was now inside this labyrinth. In the distance the demon says that if they survive this labyrinth, they will be released. Satou was next to these girls. He felt sorry for them and gave them food and water. In order to save them, he says that from today, they will be his servants and they should not worry about the necklace since their former master is dead. The girls gladly agree to stay with him. That boy was very kind to them. The girls are very happy. Satou wanted these girls in the future to defend themselves on their own and decided to take advantage of this maze and train them. So he gives them weapons. They fight with all the monsters they see and defeat them. The protagonist can observe how these maidservants were leveling up. They had spent the whole day fighting beasts of the labyrinth and were becoming more powerful. The girls now trusted Satou completely and were very happy. As they continued on their way to the exit, they met many of the soldiers of the kingdom and decided to save them. In that place was also Xena. She was in danger and was saved by the protagonist. The demon could not accept that his monsters had been defeated by these mere humans and decided to confront them. The fight is close. That demon was very powerful. Satou did not want to attract people's attention and had no choice but to use his camouflage strategy. He puts on a mask and a wig so as not to be discovered. That way he faces the demon. He was about to win, but the demon makes a last invocation. The demon decided to sacrifice himself in order to summon the king of demons himself. The protagonist knows that this demon will not be so easy to defeat, so he decides to use his best weapon. The demon receives very powerful magical attacks. Despite managing to damage it, it still stands. The protagonist had no choice but to use the sword that the hero of the game's story would use, managing to defeat him with a slash. As of today he had become the hero of this world. In the end all the people were able to get out of the labyrinth, just like Satou. Now that all the chaos had passed, Xena welcomes him with a hug. The protagonist wanted to take care of his new maids, so in order not to interfere in this world he decides to follow the rules and legally buy these girls. The seller tells him that he could sell these girls if he only buys 2 more. Satou's adventures are just beginning. He and his group will travel in search of unknown places.